Hi, and welcome back. I'm Pierre from NOUMENA Digital. Today we'll show you how to use Replit and NOUMENA's NPL for NOUMENA Protocol Language to develop applications that are secure by design while using Replit's browser-based and AI-supported workflows.
You can find these instructions on our website at noumenadigital.com under the Developer section. Follow the link to Replit explanations. There you'll find a few simple explanations to get you started. You can also find us on GitHub. Search for NOUMENA Digital, then the NPL Replit starter repo. That repo contains a README with all the few steps that we already mentioned. It also contains sample code and instructions for Replit to automatically set up and deploy the backend and frontend of a small application that you'll be able to tweak as you first experiment. Important to know, in this example, the frontend can be run on Replit's dev server or elsewhere, but we'll be deploying the backend written in NPL to NOUMENA Cloud. Ultimately, what you'll need is 1. Code from this repo, 2. A Replit account, and 3. A NOUMENA Cloud account. Let's dive in. First, you need a NOUMENA Cloud account. For that, navigate to portal.noumena.cloud. There you'll be able to select a free subscription and create a tenant, which is a kind of bucket for your applications. Now, on the login screen, select Create an account. We won't be doing that ourselves. We already created the subscription, so let's just sign in with the credentials we already have. What you see here in the upper left corner is the name of the tenant we already created. As already mentioned, you'll be creating your own tenant when you subscribe. The next thing you need to do is creating an app. Pick a name, for example, Replit app. Creating a NOUMENA Cloud app means spinning up a number of services that power a NOUMENA app. That's why you see the status of this app in yellow, pending. Takes a couple of minutes typically. These services involve the NPL engine, which runs NPL code, but also an identity provider such as Keycloak to define application users, their credentials, and their attributes. Now let's switch to Replit while this infrastructure is being spun up. In Replit, select Import Code, then GitHub. Go and fetch the URL of the NPL Replit starter, paste it into Replit, and click Import. Replit will start importing the contents of the repo, analyzing the code itself, the technology, but also the configuration files it sees. You can see that on the right here, setting up your project. If you select the file viewer on the left, you will recognize the contents of the repo that we imported, including the README file with instructions. In case of doubt, revert to that README to find suitable way to kind of steer the Replit agent. It can take a while for the Replit agent to parse the contents before it gets started with the initial steps. Now the agent properly recognizes it needs details about the NOUMENA Cloud application you just created and credentials of the admin, the Keycloak admin user. So for that, go to the NOUMENA Cloud portal and fetch the application the tenant and application slugs. These are slightly different than the bare names. You can find the slugs in the URL of your application in the portal. You can provide them back to the agent, in that case Pierre demo without underscore and Replit app without underscore. And with this, the Replit agent will be continuing the setup of the whole application. It's now asking for the credentials of the Keycloak admin as defined in the NOUMENA portal. Go to Services, Keycloak, and copy the credentials. First, the username. Be mindful of the fact that Replit's asking first for the admin password and then the admin username. These credentials are safely stored in Replit's secrets, and the setup proceeds. In particular, the agent installs the NPL CLI and the language server that facilitates coding, testing, and deploying NPL code. And then it logs into NOUMENA Cloud to deploy the backend and provision users. When prompted to click the link to log in to NOUMENA Cloud, do so. Browser window will open. Click yes. This will link Replit to NOUMENA Cloud and allow deployment of backend code and user provisioning. Do confirm that you've completed login for Replit to be able to continue. You can see that the setup program involves deploying the backend, generating some API client code for the front end based on the backend code, configuring Keycloak, and provisioning test users to be able to use the app. When all this is done, the kind of base setup is complete, and Replit's starting to bring up the development server. You can see here in the preview window the front end running in the development server. We should already be able to log in with standard credentials for the users that have been provisioned. Let's wait a few more seconds for Replit to complete that setup. Here we see Replit summarizing the setup steps or the configuration, including the users it has provisioned. So now let's log in as Alice with the appropriate password into that app. That toy application is an IOU application that allows users to just put on record how much they owe others and keep track of it bilaterally. So here Alice creates a record that it owes Bob a certain amount of money. Here, $100. And it creates a second such record showing that it owes Carol another amount of money. That might be in exchange for actual money or services received. And you see that the app provides a UI to keep track of these various debts. So let's open the another view onto the dev server here and log in as Bob. Bob should be able to see the kind of debt or the money that Alice owes Bob, but not the kind of money that Alice owes Carol. And indeed, we see one card here. That's one of the powers of NPL, the ability to create robust, fine-grained authorization for simple applications and enterprise-grade applications alike. What we just did here is, as user Bob, cancel Alice's debt. And if we revert to Alice's dashboard, we see that this change is also reflected there. This shows that the app is fully functional with the backend deployed to NOUMENA Cloud and the frontend running on the Replit dev server. If we now ask Replit to deploy the frontend to NOUMENA Cloud, this is what happens. So first Replit builds the frontend and then deploys it to NOUMENA Cloud. Takes a few seconds. Deployment to the dev server flickers, but that's just a side effect. After a few seconds, Replit reports that the deployment is complete. You can check this by following the link. The link to the front end in NOUMENA Cloud is also provided in the NOUMENA portal. Let's click here, follow the link, and log in as Alice with the same credentials. You see that with NOUMENA Cloud. It appears that data has been wiped, so Replit performed a complete deployment of backend and frontend, clearing the data on the way. If we had asked for specifically just a front-end deployment, we would have seen the cards and the data previously created by Alice and Bob. Let's open a second tab here to log in as Bob and see the two views, Alice's and Bob's, side by side. On the right-hand side now we log in as Bob, so that we see a bit the interaction that is possible with the processes implemented in that toy application. So we see here Alice claims to have paid back 50. Bob can confirm that this payment has been received. We see that the changes are reflected on Alice's and Bob's views simultaneously. Now Bob can also create an IOU reflecting a debt he owes Alice for 300, and we see that this appears on Alice's view. So here we're at the end of just, let's say, setting up, building, and deploying the IOU application that is provided in the repo. Let's now switch gears and start modifying that application with a few simple tweaks. So here, for example, we ask Replit to just change a bit the look and feel of the application by implementing a lighter theme and redeploying. Redeploying to the Replit dev server would be enough to test the results and iterate, but here we'd like to demonstrate that deploying to NOUMENA Cloud is also very quick and that you can bring changes to production fairly quickly. So we see Replit looking for and adjusting style files. Let's also open the view onto the front end deployed to NOUMENA Cloud to be ready to witness the change. Replit is now actively changing the React front-end application code, as you can see. Let's give it a few more seconds. You can see on the left that Replit's already deployed some changes to the dev server. You can see that the cards are now implemented in a light theme. Let's collapse this panel again to focus on the deployment of those changes to NOUMENA Cloud. The Replit agent announces that deployment is complete. Let us give the agent a few more seconds to complete its workflow. Here we go. Let's jump to Bob's dashboard and refresh it to view the changes. You can see that we're still logged in, the data is still there. And the lighter theme we requested is now deployed to NOUMENA Cloud. Let's now go back to Replit and ask for a second change. Here we pick this refresh button that we don't really need since we have SSC streams and auto refresh implemented. So let's ask Replit to remove that one. We haven't been explicit about where to redeploy the front end, so let's see how Replit handles that. We can see that the code refresh was reflected in the running dev server, but we also have Replit confirming that this is also deployed to NOUMENA Cloud. Notice how much faster the implementation of that change went, and how it took only a few seconds after that to deploy to the dev server and NOUMENA Cloud. Now let's ask Replit for a third change, a more structural one. We'll ask it to implement a list view as a complement to the card view that the user has within this IOU application. We're also asking it explicitly to redeploy to NOUMENA Cloud. Again, the Replit agent is working away. And we can see first changes appearing in the dev server preview. Notice the toggle that appeared in the upper right corner. Now the dev server is throwing some errors because of some further changes. Let's see if the Replit agent is able to identify the issue and correct it. The error is now gone from the preview. While the agent's logging is reporting an issue and showing that the agent's trying to fix it. The agent now appears happy with the changes it implemented and is redeploying it locally to the dev server. Deployment to NOUMENA Cloud also appears complete, so let's check the changes in Bob's dashboard on NOUMENA Cloud, and also put side by side Alice's and Bob's dashboards. Here in Bob's dashboard, we toggle to the new list view, while in Alice's dashboard, we're still in card view. Let's create a new IOU to see that this works. It does. We've managed to add some new functionality simply by asking the Replit Agent, and the result has been successfully deployed to NOUMENA Cloud. That concludes our exploration for today. If you wish to make more substantial changes and develop your own application starting from this template, be aware that this repo comes with a number of guidance files that will help the Replit agent and you along the way. Let us know about your experience. Thank you.